So good day, everybody. My name is Joe Diorsi, and this is the For Freedom's Sake video podcast. And I am here with State Senator of the 28th District here in York County, Kristin Phillips-Hill.
Good morning. Good afternoon, I guess.
Afternoon.
It's afternoon, right?
Almost.
Yeah.
But just the same. And it is an honor to have you. You've been busy lately. And, you know, as we record this video podcast, we're at May 14th, and the last couple of weeks has been just a little bit of chaos, a lot of work being done by you and your colleagues in the Capitol. And of course, the big story is the coronavirus. And then secondary to that is how are we going to reopen? And there's questions swirling, and you know, I know I personally and a lot of us here at Praise Community Church have really appreciated your work with that. So my first question is, you have been busy, countless hours in the Capitol. You've probably spent a lot of time as well just weighing the feedback of your constituents.
Absolutely. I think from Monday night at 5 o'clock, after I had gotten through every email, until 9 o'clock the next morning, when I finally got into my email account, there were 659 emails.
Wow.
In the email box, and then 75 web contacts. So there's a scene from, I think it's Evan Almighty, where he's God, and he's taking in all these prayer requests, and he just can't get through them. And you see his fingers typing away frantically, and then he says, "No, we're going to put them in filing cabinets," and the filing cabinets show up everywhere. No, we're going to put them on sticky notes, and sticky notes are everywhere. And that's kind of what it's felt like. But that communication I value so much, because I don't know everything, and I really don't know what people don't tell me. So hearing how this has impacted people from every walk of life in our community has really helped me do my job to the best of my ability.
Yeah. So for people that are watching or listening that aren't as adept as you or even me, because politics interests me. Can you just walk us past the last couple of weeks? When I say and you agree that you've been busy, that's kind of a boilerplate statement. So
right.
What exactly has been going on in the Capitol? What can you just kind of put some flesh to what we're talking about here with this fight to reopen PA?
Absolutely. And this really all began back in March when the governor used the power that he has under Pennsylvania law to declare an emergency. And, we really didn't know how the coronavirus was going to impact Pennsylvania. And we had seen how ravaged many European nations had been. We watched and there was great concern initially about how it would impact our healthcare system, and would our healthcare system be able to cope with people who become very sick, and a decision was made by the governor to basically shut down the Pennsylvania economy and our way of life as a means to flatten the curve and make sure that we can adequately prepare for an onslaught of the coronavirus. And so here in York County, we have seen slightly over 800 cases. But what we know now is, using the metrics that the governor and the Secretary of Health have put forward, using the data that has been put forward, we have met what they have put forward. They've actually said that they've created a formula, and it says that 50 cases per 100,000 people over 14 days, and we've met that metric. And to the great credit of UPMC and WellSpan, our hospitals have adequate capacity. They have adequate beds, ventilators, testing, PPE, and when I last looked at the numbers, we had very few people, hospitalized with the coronavirus. And our nursing homes, we have seen across the Commonwealth that about 70% of the deaths due to the coronavirus have been in individuals who are in long-term care facilities. Here in York County, to the credit of those frontline workers, they've done an exceptional job. We have had 9 residents test positive, 2 workers, and we've had 1 fatality. When you compare that to other counties, it's really exceptional and to their great credit. So meeting all of those metrics, we've said it's time to reopen, and we can reopen responsibly, intelligently, and safely. And we heard testimony yesterday before the Senate Aging and Youth Committee and the Senate Local Government Committee from UPMC that it's really important that we do that we can do it. And that there also is another side to this crisis, and that has to do with the lives that we're losing to suicide, to opioid overdoses, a huge spike in assaults, child abuse, and so it's time. It's time.
One of my favorite political commentators, Ben Shapiro, has been, he's such a smart guy. And it always amazes me that he's like my age. He's like 34. It's just crazy. He sums it up really nicely, just in a national sense, that there's risks and rewards to any type of response or reaction. And you mentioned other casualties. And like you said the other week, that there's been a sharp rise in opioid overdose deaths in York County specifically. There's projections being put out by statisticians that for every increment of unemployment percentage, there's an increment of the risk of suicide. They kind of correlate in that sense. So, when you take the risk of an extreme restrictive lockdown, there are other risks that follow suit, and it's a really tough balance. And in fact, and maybe you can comment on this, in Pennsylvania, it doesn't really seem like a balance anymore. It seems like we've gone extreme to one side, almost, and excuse the word, but like autocratic in a sense. And we have local authorities like you, thank God, who are trying to speak wisdom into this conversation. But it seems like Governor Wolf has taken the extreme posture.
Yeah, boy, there's a lot to unpack there as well. You are absolutely correct. Social isolation. A lot of people think that everybody lives in a happy home with a well-stocked food pantry and with parents who are doing, creative and engaging activities for their children. But we realize that a lot of families have struggles. Angela Brockway, who runs Front Porch Donations and works with Community Reach out of Red Lion, spoke the other day, and she said that many of the people that are receiving services now were previously their donors and contributors. There's a great human toll and all those other things. And York Countyans have been patient, and they are good people, and they have done what needs to be done. But now is the time because economically, people just can't wait any longer. And I've said this before, and I will say it again, every business, every job is essential. Every business and every job puts food on someone's table, clothing on a person's back, and a roof over their head. And, that's why we have called on the governor to do the right thing. We have continued to pass legislation to do this responsibly. Just yesterday, the Senate was in session. We passed legislation to begin to reopen businesses using CDC and Department of Health guidelines, everything from real estate. We're the only state in the nation where you can't purchase a home. And I know you know that personally, because I know that your family is growing and you need to find some more space. And real estate agents are professionals. They want to protect themselves and protect their clients, and there's a way that this can be done. We passed legislation. It's being considered in the House. That legislation is actually on the governor's desk. We're waiting for his signature. And then other legislation that would allow dog groomers, would allow garden centers, would allow hair salons and barbershops to responsibly reopen. And also a measure that would empower counties. We recognize we are a large and a diverse state, and that, and I've said this before on so many other issues, what's going to work in rural Venango County and, South Central York County or over in Philadelphia, they're going to be very different things. And we have locally elected people here in the county who are very capable of planning and making decisions that are in the best interest of the people who live here. And government that's closer to the people, I think really understands it, gets it, and is better to make those decisions. So that legislation would empower counties to make those decisions. York may be ready to fully reopen, and Philadelphia might not be. And let's empower those local officials to make those decisions.
Yeah. So you represent the 28th district in the state Senate, and that covers almost all of York County.
A large portion of York County, I like to say, from the city of York down to the Mason-Dixon line, from the Susquehanna River all the way over to Paradise, and that's township. So yes, it covers a large swath of some of the most beautiful farmland, maybe in the country. I might be a little biased. Some lovely rural, suburban communities, and then the third-class city of York.
Yeah. So what you said, just the sheer amount of emails and web contact forms, and you didn't even mention social media opinions. What is the overall general pulse of your district when it comes to the question of do we err on the side of extreme caution and stay locked down, or ease into things, or get back to work immediately, like in a green phase sense? What's the heartbeat of your district?
I think that, the vast majority of people that I have heard from have truly believe that protecting public health and protecting economic health are not mutually exclusive goals, that we can do both. They really believe that people will make the best decisions and do the right thing. And there's also great concern about assuring our constitutional rights. I was on the Gary Sutton show the other morning, and he said, "Is there ever a time when you can suspend the Constitution?" I said, No. That foundational document has guided us through previous pandemics, wars, great trials and tribulations. It has stood the test of time. It is fundamental to our freedom and to our future.
Yeah. So I told you, before we went on camera here, that it's been just a tough balance for us as church leaders. We know the biblical mandate to be subject to our authorities. At the same time, we're ultimately subject to God, and there's, we're to meet and gather and care for the public reading of Scripture and lay our hands on one another so that they might recover. I mean, there's all of these biblical mandates that don't really match a stay-at-home order, but at the same time, we honor and respect Governor Wolf. So it's been quite a tough balance. Can you speak to the person who is tuning into the news and they hear that counties here in South Central Pennsylvania who are currently on red as regards the red phase as regards Governor Wolf, but local authorities like yourself and even like district attorneys like Dave Sunday have kind of pushed back, and you're taking a localized approach. And correct me if I'm wrong, we in York are moving ourselves to yellow this Friday?
Well, that's where I think most people would like to be and like to go, and certainly I'm supportive of that, and that will take all of our local elected officials to get there. And our district attorney laid out a very compelling case. It's really difficult to prosecute on these orders because they are constantly changing. Remember, we talked about, here's the criteria for going from red to yellow, and it was that simple formula. And then all of a sudden it was, well, no, but it's also this, and it's also this, and it's also that. And so as the head of law enforcement, it's really difficult for the district attorney to enforce something that's constantly changing.
Yeah.
And I believe that's why he took that stand. You can't do it. So the sheriff came out and said that he felt that it was a violation of the Constitution. The county commissioners have made a statement, and they're supportive of moving to yellow as well. So certainly I would like to see us there.
Yeah. So what would your advice be for someone who maybe is of that mind and they want to side with their local representatives, and at the same time they want to get back to work because it's their livelihood? But I think I'm speaking for a vast majority of people and saying, we want to do that, but if we had a choice, we don't want to be at odds with the governor.
Sure.
What would you say to those people?
Well, and this is what I've told business owners. We have heard threats. I know that my colleague to the north is having a press conference in Cumberland County today because, the governor is threatening people with the loss of their professional license. And I can tell you that right now, as we speak, I'm dropping legislation with my colleague to the west, Senator Mastriano, that in the event that the governor takes your license during this pandemic, I would like to pass legislation to have that license restored. I don't believe that that's the right thing to do. I, again, believe that businesses can make the best decision for themselves and for their customers. And I think that individuals can make their own choices as to what businesses they want to patronize. We look to the South, and Maryland is opening up. New Jersey, which has been really devastated by the coronavirus, they're opening up. I think that we can safely, we can responsibly, and we can intelligently reopen, and I trust people to make those decisions. And look, I said earlier, my dad had a heart transplant. He's on immunosuppressant drugs. My father needs to be locked in his home for a while until we can really get things under control. He's 81 years old and doesn't have a good immune system. Those are the kind of people that we need to protect. We need to protect those people who are really vulnerable to this disease. And I've been frustrated because, when I look at those death rates, 70% of our deaths are in long-term care facilities. That says to me that the governor and the Secretary of Health really have missed the mark in what they've been doing. They have not been protecting the most vulnerable during this crisis.
Yeah, and a stat that I came across that was just mind-boggling to me is from that hearing where you guys were able to get this data from the Secretary of Health. I believe I read that the average age of the person that's passed away is 79.
Correct.
And the average life expectancy for an American person is 78.
Yes.
And I saw that and I was like, man, this is crazy. It really does seem to be pigeonholed on a particular group of people, those that are older in age,
right,
and those who have 1, 2, 3, in some cases 4 or more pre-existing conditions.
Right. And we know that those people are vulnerable, right? Heart disease, COPD, lung disease, diabetes, all of those things make you more vulnerable for a lot of other health issues. Mm-hmm. So, yes.
So let's talk a little bit. Neither one of us obviously are scientists, and there's been plenty of opinions out there on the science of all of this. And I personally understand the response initially of let's take a step back, lock down, and figure things out.
Right.
And when I hear that, like a group like UPMC, who testified the other day, who's actually suggesting we need to get back to things and stop self-isolating, because that has a medical detriment to it.
Correct.
I'm just wondering what are the risks, and is it becoming a scientific consensus that maybe we overreact? Is there like a little bit of humility in maybe admitting in the scientific community that, it's possible we were wrong, maybe we overreacted?
I can't really speak for the scientific community, but talking with medical professionals in the state, that testimony yesterday, I posted it on my website, on my Facebook page, was really compelling, really, really compelling. And, I believe them. I believe the medical professionals from UPMC. And look, I think everyone has to evaluate their own personal health considerations, speak with their own medical professionals. And, anytime something is new, it takes us a while to assess. But I think you are spot on that there are other health consequences. People who will not go to the emergency room because they're afraid of the coronavirus are having heart attacks. I spoke with a woman who needs to have a hysterectomy, and she is being prescribed opioids, which we all know, and we've been battling opioid addiction, but that's the only thing that they can do for her. I have a gentleman who reaches out fairly frequently. He needs to have shoulder surgery. He's in terrible pain. There are medical conditions that require attention. And a lot of people, we're going to stop elective procedures. Elective procedures are not facelifts.
Yeah.
Elective procedures, anything that you have that's scheduled, right? So if you need to have a stent in your heart, it's elective, right? If you need to have a hip replacement, a rotator cuff repaired, those are all elective procedures, hernias, things like that really do need to be taken care of. And right now, those elective procedures are starting again. The hospitals can do those safely again. And of course, always talk to your own medical professional to make the best decisions for your particular health situation.
Yeah. And I have to say, UPMC, if anyone's watching or listening, that's University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. Mm-hmm. And just as a guy who went to school out in Pittsburgh, they are... When leaders from UPMC are talking, I try to listen. They're one of the best in the country.
Yes, they are, and they have 24 hospitals, and they have nursing care facilities that work with them, and they have not had any problems in any of their nursing homes, which really is a testament to the efforts that they've made.
Yeah. So that's all I have for you on the coronavirus. Did you have any parting words, Senator?
No, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in, and I always love to hear from you, and you can visit me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or on my webpage, which is senatorkristin.com. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming.